and welcome to You and Your Young Child, a program devoted to early childhood. My name is Sheila Biggs, and I hope you've been enjoying the previous segments of this show. Today I have with me Kelly Rhodes, LMSW. Tell me about those mysterious letters after your name.
I'm a licensed master of social work, so I have my master's in social work, and I took the test that convinced the state I knew what I was doing.
Okay, so you're licensed to practice as a clinician now, correct?
I am, yes. Not as a clinical social worker, but I'm working on that.
Oh, you're working on that, okay.
There's an additional test.
Okay, very good. And can you tell me about the organization that you're representing today?
Yes, I work for Central Kansas Mental Health Center.
Okay.
The primary office is in Salina, but we have outreach clinics here in Abilene and Harrington and Lincoln and Minneapolis and Ellsworth.
Yes.
And so primarily I work with children, but I do see adults as well.
Okay.
And I am there as a therapist.
Okay. And I know today you're here to talk to us about something that has seemed to have kind of the diagnosis of this has grown in the last 10 years or so, and this is autism.
It certainly has grown.
Yeah. Tell us about, a little bit about autism.
Okay. Well, autism it's a neurological disorder or a developmental disorder. Primarily focuses on challenges or limitations in social activities and in communication. It's really kind of difficult to define because it appears so different in every child that is diagnosed.
Yes.
But the number of children diagnosed has significantly increased. As late as March of this year, the number is now 1 in 68, and a lot of that is attributed to parents learning early intervention is working, kids are being screened, and getting appropriate interventions in place. So it really, while the number sounds kind of scary, it is a positive thing.
Okay. Now, the mothers and fathers of young children in our audience would probably like to know what kind of behaviors should be of concern to them.
Well, typically, we're going to be looking at kiddos from like 18 months to 3 years of age. That's when the majority are diagnosed. One of the red flags, so to speak, is if your child prefers to still play by themselves, maybe next to somebody, but not a lot of integrated play.
Okay.
They may not play imaginatively or play pretend. Everything is very realistic. Some other things may be not the best eye contact, maybe to appear a little indifferent, as I know you're sitting right beside me, Sheila, but I may be doing other things that I don't require interacting with you until I need you.
Okay.
Some children may have sensory needs, like they want to snuggle all the time or may not want to snuggle at all.
Okay.
Some textures may feel different as far as foods or clothes. There may be some developmental delays, meeting some milestones a little bit behind than others.
Okay.
But like with anything with our kiddos, if we have concerns, it's always the best to go get it checked out, to not chalk it up to, oh, his older sister talks for him, so that's the reason for that he's not speaking yet. It's always best to ask that pediatrician or that doctor if you have any concerns about where your kiddo is developmentally and if they're on the right speed.
Okay, and some of those behaviors also sound like normal behaviors.
They can be,
yeah,
absolutely. If a child is slow in speech, that doesn't mean that he or she is autistic. Or if they prefer to play by themselves, it's okay to be shy.
Yeah.
But if it becomes concerning, or if you think that things should be speeding up a little bit more than the current rate, getting evaluated is really important.
Okay. And how young? I mean, you've talked about 18 months to 3 years is when very often these types of behaviors may become a concern.
Right.
When can a diagnosis be made?
It varies, honestly.
Okay.
For example, my son is on the spectrum and he never developed language. We did get a diagnosis right around the age of 2.
Okay.
I don't think a pediatrician will, I don't think they would feel comfortable before 18 months, just because everybody does things at their own pace.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that it's not just I'm not quite ready yet, versus this is something that some interventions will be necessary or super helpful.
Okay, okay. And if a parent would have concerns, where can they go?
The number one place to go, I think, to start would be their doctor or their pediatrician. It's important to remember that parents are the experts on their kids, and that the second person would be that pediatrician or infant toddler services, depending, if they're in preschool already, if some of this stuff is showing up a little bit later, or if you see a regression that kiddos have learned skills, but now it appears that we may not have them as strong as they were, or that they're starting to disappear. Talking to their teacher. And I think it's really important for teachers and daycare providers to remember that please talk to your parents if you see something concerning, because for me, being a working mom, my son is at daycare during the week more than he is with me. So it's a very important team that we have raising our kids these days.
Yes, I think that that's a very important thing to remember. Parents need to remember that they're not in anything by themselves anymore.
No, absolutely not. And if someone does bring a concern to you about your child, we all want to say, no, there's nothing wrong. But having a concern doesn't mean that there's necessarily proof, but it's always best to get checked out. I
agree. Now, what if parents have a concern about someone else's child? Let's say there's play group at their house, or play date or something of that nature, and a parent may consistently see some things.
I think what's important to remember when you're trying to talk to somebody about their child is to deliver the information how you would like to receive it. And our kids are so important that I certainly would be like, why didn't I see that necessarily in my child? But thank you so much for having your eyes open and caring about my child and myself enough to say something.
Yes.
So you're not saying there's something wrong or this is what's wrong with your kid, but maybe that would be something that we want to look into a little bit closer.
Right. So basically just kind of giving the facts and saying, this is what I've observed.
Exactly, exactly. And gently is good, I think.
Yes. And not that it's been a problem, but
right.
I've observed this, and perhaps
exactly.
you might want to pursue that.
Is he doing this at home?
Yeah.
Is he doing it at daycare? Because if things are consistent in our different environments, then absolutely, let's look at it. But if it's only when I'm at grandma's house or only if I'm in the grocery store, there is a difference.
Yes, yeah. Once a diagnosis of autism is made, what does this mean for this child and the family?
That child is the same child 2 seconds before the diagnosis was made. The diagnosis opens up a lot of doors for resources for that family. And while getting a diagnosis can be a scary thing, it's really important, because I get services for my son that if I just went into that agency and said, I would like this, this, and this to start for my kiddo, you have to qualify these days for lots of things, and insurance is changing, and just in budgets are being cut. So that diagnosis is a key to open that door for a lot of things that can really benefit your child. And it is scary, but it's very important. And it's also important as parents to get the support that you need and to make sure that your team is strong around you as well.
Yes. And how about as this child grows up? What kind of prognosis do kids with autism have these days? It
is just like with anybody else. That kiddo can be as successful as he or she can be.
It's kind of finding what is their passion and what they...
Absolutely.
And working with the limitations that the autism may have for him.
There's a whole bunch of us without diagnoses that have our own limitations,
oh,
right? So it's an individual journey, but really focusing on the strengths and boosting up those challenges and making sure supports are in place like we all need.
Okay. Anything further that you'd like to tell us about autism in a briefly here?
If anybody has any questions, they can always contact us at the center.
Okay.
Don't hesitate to ask. We're always there. We're always available.
Okay. And can you provide us with a phone number?
Absolutely. 785-823-6322.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly, for being with me today.
Well, thank you, Sheila. I appreciate your time.
Okay.